And we are live, NDI November. I am so excited. I have two very special guests with me from NewTek, Jeremy Morris and Chris Burgos. Guys, why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us who you are and what you do. And then, actually, wrong. I should tell people what NDI November is all about, because I got to assume every show is someone's first visit to the show. So NDI November is a event. This is the third annual NDI November. Woohoo! Happy birthday, NDI November. And we are very excited. We had our kickoff keynote yesterday with Tamir from VizRT. And today we did some other stuff, NDI November. You can register now when you watch this. And today our NDI November point is we're going to spotlight NDI technology. We're going to bring in people from vendors like you two. We're doing product spotlights. We're bringing in dealers who are talking about successful installs they've done, success stories. We've got keynotes. We've got individual interviews. This is a group interview. And this one's really important because this, to me, is to let everyone know NDI is network device interface. But a lot of people think the N is for NewTek, which it isn't. But NewTek did invent it. So as the inventors of NDI, I wanted to have a roundtable discussion with the guys who are in the trenches. You guys are sales engineers, so you're talking to people trying to put in from the easiest to the most incredible, insane NDI rollouts and locations and stuff like that. So introduce yourselves first. Jeremy, you go first. Tell us all about yourself.
All right, thanks, Gary. Yes, my name is Jeremy Morris, Senior Sales Engineer with NewTek. I've been with the company 3 years as of November 1st. Long-time aficionado of NewTek. I grew up on this product going back to the video toaster days in high school, so my career's come full circle. Spent some time in the dealer side and some integration stuff, but yeah, I love it, speak it, talk to it. I've got TriCasters in my house that I deal with every single day. And and then I'll introduce Chris next, and we'll talk about what we do.
Cool. Chris, you're up.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Gary. My name is Chris Burgos. I'm a senior sales engineer as well. I have been in and around TriCasters for a long time. I have a passion for all different aspects of what is going on. I love cool projects. I'm big on the esports scene. And I've actually, Jeremy just brought up, he's been working with NewTek officially now as a member of the team for 3 years. But in our little pre-show, we were talking with Gary. It's felt like it's been so much longer, and this is an amazing opportunity. Me and Jeremy work together often, but you're going to get two guys talking really deep about what we do as NewTek and what NDI is capable of. And so I just want to say up front, thank you to Gary and the rest of the team, because one, NDI November is an amazing time frame, and two, this is going to be a really cool conversation.
And it's kind of your pedigree is kind of different, but you're all been here a while. Jeremy, you come from a dealer who's now at NewTek, and you're practically a second generation NewTek guy, Chris, right? I mean, your dad's been with the company for a long time too. So this is really cool. I want to jump right into the show if we could. So let's bring up the first thing I think we want to talk about is NDI 5, and more importantly, NDI 5.5, the jump. Now, I looked at NDI 5 as really when I thought NDI became really ready for prime time. And I don't want to put it down the versions before, but so many things were done with NDI 5 that had to do with it discovering, connecting, stability, things that you and I as geeks who talk to people using it all the time know about. But the typical person doesn't really run into that stuff. With 5.5, we kind of added some new capabilities and new features. So I want you guys to talk to me not just about NDI in general, but talk to me about what 5 and 5.5, how I said what I thought about it. Let me get your thoughts. We're always going to start on the top, Jeremy, because it's the layout that I have. So Jeremy, you go first till I surprise Chris and call on him first.
That's fine. Age before beauty. I'm good with that. So when we talk about how NDI has completely changed what we've done in the broadcast world and even in the corporate AV space and a bunch of other markets as well, it's the decentralized of production. Where 5 and 5.5 really took off is now we're leaving it, not just the local area network, but we're leaving the building. We're traversing public internet. We're doing some things that really haven't been done this way before.
Yep.
Yes, there's been other technologies that can go across public internet and other things like that, but how we're doing it is completely changing the paradigm. Plus the other cool tools that are part of the, NDI Audio Direct, that's not really talked about too much, and I love that thing to death. Being able to do a lot of cool different audio workflows that really haven't been done before either, especially on the budget-conscious projects where dealers or even the end user really has to do some really cool things on the cheap. And we're able to do some stuff with a lot of freeware and other types of plugins that really shines and help them to grow and develop and make it flexible for them to grow down the road. And then bridge. That has revolutionized. I mean, we keep saying it's become cliche. Every time we have a new announcement of NDI, oh, we're revolutionizing again. Well, yeah, we are. Bridge, the single connection point. We're doing so many cool things now when we go out and do trade shows and go out on the road, being able to bridge back into our home systems and control TriCasters remotely just from a hotspot. I mean, that blows people away. So we're showing this stuff off, and then we're getting the wheels to turn in people's heads. I'm like, okay, here's how I can do things different than what I'm currently doing now. That hybrid workflow, doing things remote. Yeah, NDI 5 and 5.5 have really stepped that bar up again.
Chris, your thoughts?
I think to wrap up what you guys are both talking about, to the layman, NDI 5.5 is the realization of the dream from day one. All of the pieces in technology are now there in an application that's probably free to realize that your production can be anywhere. That's what 5.5 delivers on, whether it's audio direct, like Jeremy said. Hey, I want to take audio workflows, but do something really nice. I'm an audio wizard. I work in VST-based plugins. Like, I work with these things like Ardor. Now we're cool. I want to do a remote production. My TriCaster is in another state, and I want to control it. Now we have Bridge. And I often say, if you're a nerd like me, it's Thanos getting the final Infinity Stone. It is the culmination of a lot of years of work coming together and allowing you to do the productions where before the technologies were there. There are things that are out there in the world that could get you a single feed, and we can use these slick tools like Teams, and like there's lots of ways to approach these productions. But when we have Bridge, the answer is I can do it. There's a pathway to do it, and largely it just takes a little bit of your own engineering time to say, well, how far do we want to go? What can we do? So I really look at 5.5 as like that maturation, like you said, Gary, of it, more than just prime time. Everything we promised on day one is all real. There's nothing behind any kind of wall. You can do it today.
And as you said, we've taken it beyond the walls, because now where it was a local area network thing, it goes beyond it. What I really love about the approach that I think is important to say, a lot of people talking cloud, which is cool, but we're talking about remote, connecting different points. So like the little graphic we have, all those nodes, that's really what NDI has become, where anyone can be talking to any NDI thing anywhere, but you're really local with remote control, remote access. You're not going through some cloud-based solution where I'm paying for hours or cycles or stuff. It's a very affordable, nice way to do it. I want to jump into something that I found to be very important, and that is that one of the early confusions in the early days of NDI is NDI HX versus full NDI and how they work and what's different. What I see is we finally bridge that gap where NDI HX has gotten good and solid enough that, it's like full NDI, and full NDI has gotten to be even more important for certain workflows. And I find that the nicest thing is that now we don't have to be all one or all the other either. So I simplified it. If you could, I'm going to start with you, Chris. Explain the main difference between NDI HX and, more importantly, what's new in HX3.
Yeah, so HX is our high efficiency codec. And the entire goal with HX was we would like to take this marvel of NDI, but make it so that existing users and legacy network users could adopt it. And that meant that we had to think about our problem very differently. And so it is a higher level of compression. And that was the original aspects of HX. But because it's a more compressed feed, it's a smaller feed, you can use it on very old network hardware, 15-year-old, 20-year-old network hardware. So old churches and old high schools and government buildings where they haven't done a lot of contemporary IT, they could adopt NDI HX. That was the initial premise. And with lots of field advice and field use cases, and then, as always, we are pushing technology forward. We've gotten to the point where now in HX3, we are delivering a lighter payload, a lighter amount of data than the traditional NDI bandwidth, but retaining our visual quality, keeping our latency where we like it to, and we have something like those new PTZ cameras when we get deeper into it that are really showcasing, like, what can we do as we push the technology forward? And so I think, where we were at HX in version 1 versus version 3, it's night and day. People's experiences with the HX3 stuff, they don't even know. That's the goal. The goal with the IP stuff is it's seamless. It works the same way as your baseband signals work. And HX3 has now mimicked that to where NDI was doing that in traditional software.
And I want to jump in before I go to you, Jeremy. I think the other important thing with HX3 is, unfortunately, with the success of NDI and NDI HX comes people jumping in who maybe aren't really delivering what you and I think of a live production quality HX tool. With HX3, you guys have reestablished a bar where if you work with HX3, that's really telling you that this company understands NDI, they're doing it right. And they, well, not all their products may be NDI HX, they have a commitment to NDI above other companies. I think it's real important because there is some cheap knockoff stuff being called NDI that might have some part of NDI working, but it's not fully working. Now, Jeremy, I want to throw that to you because you end up being sometimes troubleshooting someone who's got a workflow and installation where they've got that subpar NDI component in it. And I love NDI, but you got to make sure you're using the right products. Those can really muck things up. So talk about that a little bit.
Right. So yeah, it's having the right tools for the right job, and that's part of the blessing and the curse of NDI is that we've made it available to the rest of the world, and for the most part, because NDI is a protocol, not a standard. Once you speak NDI, everything speaks NDI. But yeah, there are some times where there might be some hiccups, and that's where having the right technology, the right understanding, network switches. We've seen a lot of that where people will spend tons of money on your cameras and infrastructure, except they go out and buy a $100 network switch and then complain that the NDI HX is failing. It's like, well, no, you got to know the entire signal path, glass to output, where everything needs to plug in and how it operates. So the other cool thing is, for the most part, NDI flows like water through a network. And then you just have to figure out where it needs to go. And we have plenty of tools to allow for that. NDI Access Manager, we got Discovery Server. So there's a lot of other different types of tools that don't require an advanced IT skill set. Just, hey, I can open up a piece of software. I know I'm on a local area network, just some basic configuration, and I'm back up and running. So for the most part, yes, it truly is. I hate to say the word plug and play because that kind of gets lost. But yeah, we play well with others. Let's put it that way.
I love it. And I think more importantly, others play well with us. And what I mean by that is it's great to talk about NDI and everyone else out there, but NDI first and foremost, TriCaster. I know people are using other solutions. They're using vMix, OBS, Wirecast, whichever out there. But a TriCaster, it's like there is no substitute. And there's TriCasters at different levels. And I want you guys to walk through the TriCaster product line with me. But up here, I have a little slide that shows you the Mini X, the 4K, the 410, the TC1, TC1 Pro, TC2 Elite. I want to break this discussion into two pieces. The first piece I want to talk about the Mini X and the Mini 4K. Now, the Mini 4K was around a little longer. It was $89.95. It was a very unique device because it had no baseband jacks in it. It was strictly NDI and IP. With the Mini X, which just released, I call it the Mini we've all been waiting for because it's giving me all the NDI goodness plus the HDMI jacks that I missed. And for schools and organizations and churches who are on a budget, it's a little bit cheaper as well. But a lot of people are confused about the difference between those two products. So I don't know who wants to jump in on this one, but let's start talking about what's different about them, because that's probably the number one question when you've got someone looking to buy something for under $10,000.
So yeah, with the Mini product line, how we rolled that out, and it is kind of a different mindset when we had the Mini SDI and the Mini HDMI originally, those two products. So we had the same similar size chassis, a small form factor, take it on the road, but using the direct NDI did change the paradigm when you're talking about remote productions. If things have to travel, I can plug a camera straight into the back of that chassis that's NDI based. I don't need to have network switches or other types of power devices. So it made things nice and compact and easy to move around it. And then, yeah, like you said, Gary, the one we've been waiting for, the with direct HDMI inputs, now we've had kind of the best of both worlds. We have a permanent installation type box, and then you still have one that runs out on the road. But then we also have our handy-dandy little Sparks. The Swiss Army knife of NDI. I mean, these things, inputs, outputs, they come with the Mini 4K. So that was really cool. We flipped a lot of projects back in the day when Mini 4K first rolled out because we included these little guys.
Absolutely.
So then that allowed for the expansion of HDMI in or out. So, yeah, the handy-dandy little Sparks are always a benefit.
They definitely make a difference. So, Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, when we're talking, I mean, the major difference here when we're talking about Mini 4K versus Mini X is that connectivity, right? But we look at the Mini 4K as the mark of the Mini line joining the new generation. The new generation of products started with the TC1, NDI centric, NDI first. That's what we did when we introduced TC1, which is quite a few years ago. So when we came through with the Mini 4K, it was that sort of like moving that generation forward. The Mini line came forward. And now where we have with the Mini X and the Mini 4K, if you were working a traditional HDMI environment, you can work the Mini X just fine. I think you're going to be more than happy with what you get. And if you're looking at something that's a little newer and contemporary, well, hey, the Mini 4K gives you that 4K 60 workflow. So if you're a high school looking to start an esports program, go from OBS to something that maybe is, going to make an investment and showcase something, the Mini 4K is a great option there. And so I think they kind of serve two different sides of the market. We have our entry-level IP customer, and then we just have our entry-level general customer with some legacy equipment, or let's say the last generation of equipment and prosumer stuff. And so that's the big differentiator is if I got to connect an HDMI, you can just do that on your Mini X. And if you're going to be working in this IP space and you really like some of the new NDI tools, maybe the Mini 4K is the better option for you.
And I think you hit the nail on one big differentiator that gets lost a lot, and that's the P60. If you're doing esports or real sports, that's for 60 frames. This show today, 60 frames is not going to mean anything. In fact, 4K is not going to gain anything for it. But if you're trying to push that envelope and you're working with 4K and that frame rate's going to matter, definitely a reason to get the Mini 4K. Now I want to jump into a more elaborate workflow, and I want to talk about the higher end product, the TC1, the TC1 Pro, and the TC2 Elite. But before we do that, normally I start from the bottom up. Let's talk about this TC2 Elite, because here it is, the top of the line product that you guys put out, and you have sold a tremendous amount of these worldwide. What's that number? How many have we sold? 2,800.
It's a couple thousand, yeah.
Yeah, 2,800 since we released it, which is release date was in August of 2020, right?
Yep. And this is a $30,000 product. So, when you look at this product, I think when we talk about the TC2 Elite, and I want to really focus on that a little bit, this is the product that really took NDI and the TriCaster out of prosumer, big churches, schools into the broadcast space, the broadcast world. It's where, these are now in trucks. They're all over the place. They're being used in some incredible facilities and things like that. So talk a little bit. We're going to talk from the top down, which is a little weird. I don't usually do that. But let's talk about what made the TC2 Elite so special. Then I want to talk a little about the TC1 and then how you put the Pro in the middle. But let's talk with that TC2 Elite, because 2,800 of a $30,000 device. I mean, kudos, man. What can I tell you, man? That's just incredible.
Yes.
And the other thing I want to stress, and we can bring up another graphic, is when we're talking about TC2 Elites, that's not a product you're going to buy from a box house or an online vendor. That is a sophisticated product that you want to buy through a dealer, a local dealer. And you guys have, that's the other graphic we want to bring up, is 250 authorized dealers in the U.S. Now, maybe 200 of them, 50 of them aren't authorized for the TC2 Elite. But that means if you're interested in that product, give NewTek a call, and they'll point you to the closest guy who you can work with in the area. And more importantly, you guys can actually do remote complete demonstrations for the customer directly with or without their local dealer. But I just wanted to stress that this is a high-end professional broadcast product. If you've got the $30,000 budget, you're an individual or a small church, good for you. But let's talk about those workflows, because you added a lot of cool things with that I want you guys to talk about. So, Jeremy, you're on top. Take it away. Start talking about the TC2A.
That, again, we keep using that cliche word of revolutionary. What we took from previous models when we had some of our flagship units, the TriCaster 8000, the IP series, the VMC1, and those big chassis that we had back in the day, and took the best of components from all of those, and then did come up with a revolutionary product that included the hybrid workspace development, where now we can integrate directly with Teams and Zoom and whatnot with our Live Call Connect feature. So we're bringing in remote participants, plus dealing with the local infrastructure. We have the 8 SDI ins, 8 SDI outs. We've got the redundant power supplies a lot of folks were asking for or dealing with. Like you said, talking about remote trucks. We've got, pick a vertical. Chris and I have been doing demos and doing installs for several years now over on the TC2, and it's always, big time clients all the way down to some, out of the woods. You're like, where did this come from? Who's using this now? Call letter broadcast stations have this as their on-air main production. We've put them everywhere, and it really has solved a lot of pain points for a lot of end users when you're talking about not just from a budget, but connectivity and then feature set. And I use this, and I've said this for years when I was doing demos and trainings or whatnot. You're never going to use a TriCaster at 100% what it's capable of. It's over-engineered to a fault. you find the best components that make the most sense to you at your individual workspace.
Yep.
How do you want to run a show today? We can make it happen. And the TC2 most definitely answers all those bells and whistles and answers the call for everybody.
Cool. Chris, I think he really nailed the
If you-
TC2. So why don't we talk about the rest of the line still, the One and the One Pro, and how the One Pro really came about? Because I see that as a product that fits a lot of people because it fits a budget. And there are a lot of people who want to be a TC2E, but they don't quite have the budget. There's a lot of people who have the money for a TC1, but I say try to find that extra money for the One Pro. You get some extra goodness and stuff. So talk about that a little bit if you could.
I think the TC1 was something that took us into the future from a IP hybrid environment. It was the first TriCaster designed with NDI first. NDI is prominent. It exists. And that begets our TC1, which is a 16-input system with 4 outputs, streaming, recording, all the great stuff TriCaster is known for. When we were looking at the success of both what the TC2 was able to establish and what some of the people were looking for, this is where we come with the genesis of the One Pro, which is people really love having these higher-level 4K workflows. So let's make sure that our new TriCaster can do that. Let's also make sure that the TC1 Pro has access to this live call connect feature, the ability to work with Skype, Teams, Zoom, all these different kinds of virtual call-in systems. And then let's start to take other things forward. Things like neural voice isolation, which I'm actually using on this very call as part of my setup. I'm going to, pull back the curtain a little bit. I'm actually remoting into a TriCaster and coming back into this call via bridge. And we're using some of those features on this very call. So,
love it.
To Jeremy's point about where we started and where the TC2 was successful, we have been doing demos and putting in TriCasters in various scenarios. I think a TC1 for someone just looking for some base level connectivity, that's fine. But someone who needs to go above and beyond that, someone who's looking to do those virtual meeting spaces, I can look at a TC1 and go to a school or an environment and say, this actually makes sense for you guys because not only are you a high school, but you're also connected with the local government. So when something's happening and the police chief needs to say something, you guys can help provide that context. Yep. When there's a new message and mandate because, hey, it's snow day. Well, Jeremy was in the Northeast for a while. No snow anymore for him. But for you and I, Gary, we got to know if the kids are going to get need to go to school at 6 a.m. What's that? Those kind of messages now. What the TC1 Pro provides with its ability to easily connect remote sources, I think that's a unique aspect. And this is where you're saying, hey, how do I get to this One Pro? Well, don't limit yourself to just what your school is doing today. Look at those feature sets, and like Jeremy said, it's kind of sky's the limit. Where are you going?
Yep. Cool. Now, we did a comparison chart that's kind of up here. We also did a whole show previously that you could find that, on YouTube that goes through all of the which one in depth on the differences and stuff like that. But what I wanted to talk about with you guys now is that if you're buying a TriCaster, you're buying a TC1 Pro or Elite, it's a sophisticated piece of hardware. You're not going to be able to download enough YouTubes to figure out how to use that correctly. So there's 3 components that we want to talk about now that are really capable for you to have. There's Video University for you to get the training that you need to use your TriCaster correctly. There's ProTech for you to get an extra level of care and security. And then there's also your professional services.
Professional services.
And professional services is something that I don't think we talk about enough because professional services, I'm going to give the very basic answer, but there are features that can automate your TriCaster production to the point where an incredibly sophisticated production can be done by a volunteer. But you don't get there yourself. Sometimes you need some help. And with NewTek Professional Services, you'll actually help. If I'm a big church or a big school or a corporation that wants to bring my video in, I can actually have the folks at NewTek listen to me, design what I want to the point that you'll do the whole live. You'll give me my graphics. You'll help me with how I'm going to lay the whole thing out, how to bring people in. And that's available for all levels of TriCaster. But I think it's really important if you're a TC1, One Pro, or Elite user because it's just a way to hit the ground running. And if I get my operator gets the university certification while you guys from professional services set up the whole show, I can know that I'm going to get a return on my investment much faster than if I have to take 3 months, 6 months, or a year to really figure out all the power and performance that's in this. I'm going to shut up now because I think I gave you guys not too much to say, but jump in when you need to.
Gary, that's you said the exact things that we would say. If this is a business and you are using a TriCaster to help you generate business, there can be a learning curve. There can be aspects where you want to delve deeper. You want to have that really specialized virtual set. You want to have this complex production be done effortlessly. Well, with trained operators, that's possible, right? Me and Jeremy have done this for a long time, and we've actually done this in the field too. Like, we've been in the field and run people's productions. But maybe you don't have that TriCaster operator today. You need someone who needs to develop their skills. Well, NewTek University is there for that. But on the flip side, if I'm looking at this as a business, I say, I need you guys to be able to do show A when we get the system. So if we're going to get the system in December next month, I need to be assured that beyond my investment, that this thing is going to do what we're asking for.
Yep.
And now with professional services behind you, instead of having to worry about that learning curve and spending time developing, your floor of production, the worst case your production can be, is amazing from what you're used to, especially if you're coming from an existing software-based solution, a piece of freeware or something that's available out there. You're going to step up and elevate your game so much that instead of thinking about this initial investment, you guys are going to be looking at the creative space to engage more customers, more eyeballs getting on your project, more stream capabilities, more ways to bring remote people in. Because what we've done is we've helped remove what was the time you would invest into it in terms of learning and adapting your show, and just made that effortless. I'm a big fan of professional services team. I know Jeremy is as well, and it works at all levels, whether that's a volunteer-based church or high school experience, like teaching them, or the top-level corporate productions that are happening today. Everybody wants something to rely on. You could be a power operator and still have an easy button available to you in professional services.
And Jeremy, what I want to talk about is if I'm really looking to get into one of these models, I can have a sales consultation that's involving one of you two guys, and you can not only help me know what I need to buy, but you could be that bridge that helps the professional service guys understand what I want, because I don't talk TriCaster, but you guys do. And now all of a sudden I could be a user who wants to put this into my corporate video space or my college football stadium, and I can meet with you guys on a pre-sales level, figure out what I need, and then in those discussions, you can put me together with the right services people so that I can really hit the ground running and say, come football season, I want to be able to do this, this, and this. I want this for the halftime show. I want this for the post show. I want to be in the middle of the week. I want to have a coach where the coach talks about what happened or all that. So Jeremy, talk about what you guys do from a pre-sales point of view, because I think it's so important with these products.
Yeah, and we do this day in and day out. In fact, I have this after our live show today. I've got a demo, and that's what we're doing the pre-sale side. We're doing the engagement with the client, with the end user, and the dealer that's involved usually, even the consultant sometimes, on what do you want to do and how do you want to get there, and then what's your budget. Chris and I were in sales, so we're going to pitch whatever product makes the most sense, and then add that professional services tag at the end. It's like, here's how you close the loop. Now you have a piece of hardware, and we don't make everything, so it's going to have to talk to another piece of gear somehow, some way. Our macro system is really involved with that. So then we leverage professional services. Okay, you want command and control? You want third-party AV integration with the control system? Here's how we do this. By the way, now we add professional services to the mix. Like I said, to close that loop, now these parts and pieces can talk to each other very efficiently. But it's our background and our experience to be able to see that entire picture to help the client along to know where they're going to go. And they may have gear already. They may be buying additional parts and pieces down the road. We need to know that, to flush that out ahead of time to make sure stuff is going to work the way they want it to.
Awesome.
So that's what we do on the pre-sale side. And yes, so you can book time with us. There's plenty of different ways. Contact your local dealer and go through that. Our dealers do have the web portal access to book time with us. They have access. They can see our calendars and then find times all across the country. And we even do some stuff overseas every now and then. So
cool. I want to jump into something you guys kind of almost made me jump into the show early on, and that is that NDI, the N in NDI is for network. And one of the biggest things that we found in the early days of NDI struggling with it is a lot of times people didn't have the right switches, or they had the right switches but not the understanding of how to configure the switch, or the person who knew how to configure the switch didn't believe in NDI, so he didn't want to open things up. So through, I think, a lot of listening to guys like you, the folks at Netgear stepped up their game and came out with the M4250 series of switches, which are built for NDI. And the first 2 points on this slide, I just got to say, optimized for NDI workflows via unique NDI profiles. And the number 2 thing, this is our number 1 NDI tech support solution. I can't tell you how many times we've had customers who didn't even get this stuff from us, or one of our dealers call up and say, I'm having problems with this NDI thing. And we're like, what switch are you using? The first thing is, stop. It's going to cost you money, but you're going to get the right switch, and this thing's just going to work and work and work. So let's give the M4250 and Netgear some love, guys. Talk about it, not for too long, but tell me a little bit of how it's, maybe an example of how it saved you or what you like so much about it. We're having them on the show next week, so they'll be a part of NDI November, but I think we have to give them kudos, don't we?
Oh yeah,
I
we
agree.
do. And you talked about, them listening. Well, they actually did directly listen to myself and also to Liam Hayter, one of our solutions architect over in the UK. And so Netgear was one of the partners that approached us as NewTek in general to have that discussion. Like, hey guys, NDI is popular. We want to get in on it. How do we do this? And so having that discussion, be able to flush this product out and make sure it's done the right way, and then also piggyback in with our dealers and existing end users. How are they going to incorporate that in? So they did it the right way. I love the Netgear product. I've been using it for a long, long time. I have one in my travel case I take with me to shows. So it is great in that whole NDI ecosystem. Going back to what I said before, we do play well with others. Here's a great example of that.
Chris, anything to
I
add?
think it's a good, just if you're somebody who is maybe skeptical and you're like, well, what's going on behind the scenes? Like, looking at a major player like Netgear, who's available at all different kinds of levels, and see that those guys are willing to work in NDI, really as an IT infrastructure, like, how do we support that? I think that's as good of an indicator as anything that, this is not, it's not just us waving the banner. Here's another organization getting behind it in a very big way, that they're dedicating product cycles, knowing that people are going to care about this.
They've got switches from 600 up to several thousand with PoE, all kinds of good stuff. We're going to have the Netgear folks on NDI November on Tuesday. So we're going to jump ahead to something that's also very cool that I don't think people talk enough about, and that is NewTek's 3-play solutions, IP replay, instant replay systems. And, if you're going to do sports, what separates your sports program from someone else's sports program? Well, there's 3 components. I think number 1 is having cool graphics. Number 2 is having a live updated scoreboard in some way with those graphics. And number 3, which is the one that separates the boys from the men, is instant replay. If you're doing a sporting event and you don't have instant replay, you're not at that level of production quality that other people are. And the 3-play systems that you guys have are, for an organization that's buying like a T2 Elite, are affordable. They're incredibly powerful. They have great integration with TriCasters and NDI in general, and they're just cool as anything. So let's talk a little 3-play. Let's get 3-play some love, guys. Chris, you can start.
It's going to be me, because I'm Mr. 3-play.
I'm going to sit down and be quiet. Chris can go for an hour on this one.
Let's keep it to
I'm going to give it
5
to you
minutes.
as quickly. We're going to condense it, right? The big piece of the 3P1 and the 3P2 is 2 factors. One, it's IP enabled. And we've been talking, and this entire month is dedicated to NDI. So that means I can get any of my NDI signals into this 3-play. Now, what I can then do with that is so unique, because it's more than just 3-play. On something like the 3P2, we have the ability to pan and scan and really affect sports storytelling. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
As much as we are sports fans, you and I, Gary, and Jeremy, we're here to watch the game at a technical level, but we're also here for the storytelling. I want my team to dominate. I'm a Giants fan. We got our loss, and I'm in tears.
Oh wait.
But when I'm watching the game, it's the storytelling. It's how is that presented to me? When I come back after the commercial break, they're going to play some clips that talk about how we what did we do wrong at the line?
Yep.
All those pieces that are engaging. And that's at the highest level of production. That's on broadcast TV. What you get with the 3-play is so many ease of use tools that you could have a novice operator, a high schooler who's never watched this sport before, operate as a professional. That's what separates 3-play from other replay systems. There's an ease of use tool that allows you to use a number-based system to append the kind of play that happened to the replay, so that later, when we need to go back to the end of the game and say, all right, you know what, our quarterback was the star player, search the quarterback's last name and go through and give me every clip of him. It is the easiest replay system with the most feature set to use, and that's the biggest thing I can say about 3Play and 3P2.
And I just want to add one other thing is, if you're a coach, it's a great coaching tool as well, and it might help you get the budget that you need for the entire sports production, because it becomes a tool that you can work with your kids on, your students, your athletes, your professional athletes, whatever it is to do it. So, Jeremy, we gave that one to Chris, so now we're going to jump to one that's a new product, the NewTek CaptureCast, which is gaining some traction. It is a lot of people in higher education are using these video management services that basically allow you to record lectures, playback lectures, stream lectures, the whole thing. But it tended to be a one-to-many type solution that required a lot of IT work and a big expensive, not expensive, but a high costly management system. You guys have kind of figured out a way to make it more affordable, more scalable. Talk about CaptureCast a little bit.
Yeah, so CaptureCast kind of fills that hole in our product line where we're talking about a purely AV-centric product. And when you're talking about from a lecture capture perspective, whether or not it's education or corporate or even municipalities, you need to aggregate a lot of content in a very slick and economical fashion, and then being able to record that and send it back out in as little of effort as possible. So we do have a lot of automation under the hood as well. Again, going back to the we play well with others mantra here, we can be controlled by other third-party devices as well as third-party LMS software. So there's several other players out there, Kaltura, Panopto, OpenCast, that can also manage our box, from a scheduling perspective, from a playout perspective. So we do sit well inside the rack. We aggregate NDI signals from a wide variety of spaces across the campus, and then be able to offload that in a very effective manner for whatever LMS applications you're going to run, or even going just straight to YouTube, for instance. So we see this a lot, from a corporate perspective when we deal with management, HR training sessions, retail spaces. How are you going to do your continuing education in a corporate space? Going back to local government, where you have a lot of meetings that have to be recorded now, and you don't have to send a crew out to every single room to set up a camera, to do the recording and everything. You can have the existing AV infrastructure and just acquire those signals back to our box, and then do an effective management of an upload to your internal website, or you have a government YouTube channel or something like that. So CaptureCast really has kind of encompassed both and become that bridge between the AV space and what we've done in traditional broadcast.
Very cool, guys. I thank you for that. Next, I want to talk about, you kind of took me out of order also, but one of the coolest things about NDI is that you don't have to have NDI native products to use NDI. You can go HDMI or SDI into NDI, HD or 4K. So talk about the Spark family of encoders and decoders.
Yeah, let's just leave this full screen for a second. It's a simple prospect, and we'll let Jeremy showcase this up in a second here. We got a couple price ranges, but the idea is that you have non-NDI enabled equipment. We're as much as Jeremy and I are far flung in the future with respect to living entirely NDI lives, we recognize that most of our customers are not there. Most people working with NewTek, most people's first time experience of this is, I need to get something into NDI, and that's what the Spark does ever so easily. You got you have HDMI options, you have SDI 3G and 12G options. So today you take your thing, plug it into the Spark, and you're either getting a signal out or getting a signal back in to the NDI ecosystem, and that just helps with an ease of use standpoint, and I think it's got a lot of flexibility. And Jeremy's got a couple on hand if you want to showcase them, and I'll let him sort of take over.
Yeah, so I use these data, on a daily conversation. They're in my hands. Where I talk with my hands, and I show the products with my hands. So encoders or decoders. That's the other cool thing. That's why I say they're Swiss Army knife for production. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, what day. Today it's an input off of a camera. Tomorrow it's an output to be at a monitor that's either on stet or overflow. And we also have audio capabilities to embed and de-embed audio. And they're PoE devices. So one Cat6 cable, just like with an NDI camera, you're powering that camera over one Cat6 cable. You're doing the same thing with the Spark. It's nice to have the tally on board as well. So when you are dealing with some of those ENG cameras that don't have that return, well, now I can give them that with that Spark indicator on the side of the box. So they're great for a lot of different applications, and they do fit very well budget-wise as well.
All right, well, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show. It was really great to have you. I like to always, whenever I have live guests on the show, even when we run 10 minutes over, I still say you guys get to have the last word on what the show is. So we're going to give you each a little last word on just what you want to say about products, NDI November, your favorite football team. It's your thing, so take it away. Jeremy, you're on top. You go first.
My Colts aren't doing great this year, but we're okay. We've won a couple games. We're all right.
There you
go. But no, I greatly appreciate the time, and I am pleased that we got that number down because our original talk was doing this for 4 hours, and so getting it down to under an hour, I think was very beneficial. Once Chris and I get on a roll, we're off to the races. So we covered a lot of different ground today, and thank you guys for having us on, and also feel free to reach out for anybody that's watching. We have tons of different ways to engage with us on the pre-sale side of your installation.
Very, very cool. Chris?
I say this in all earnesty that whenever I'm talking with somebody about what we do at NewTek, if the seats were reversed, I would want the information that we're trying to give you guys. And so we are looking at both today and the future for production and more at NewTek. It is more than just what we're doing in our studio. It's globally connecting all that. And if you are going to put a bet on a product to get involved with today, there is no better bet than the bet with NewTek, because you have 7 years of NDI saying that it is the best technology and continuing to evolve to say that money, is going to make you more in the future.
Awesome, guys. That was a great thing to say. And I want to stress that everyone who registers for NDI November gets this free book, The Unofficial Guide to NDI. In addition, one of the gifts we're giving out, raffles. One of the gifts is Video University, a course from Video University. So all month, we've got a lot of great giveaways. So everyone who's watching, please sign up for NDI November. And we hope you can watch all the webinars. I want to remind you, all these webinars are available on our YouTube channels and stuff like that. And NewTek, you'll get access to this whole thing too. I want to go over, we've got jam-packed schedule. So if we can bring this up full screen, I'm going to go over some of the stuff we've got. We've got the roundtable talk we just did today. We've got Netgear next Tuesday. We've got Peak Media Systems on a Valley School setup on Wednesday. Thursday, we've got NDI PTZ camera folks with workflows with Panasonic Connect and Bird Dog NDI product overview. We've got such a packed show the following week. PTZ Optics, Keycode Media, Telestream Wirecast Gear, and NDI with its head in the cloud with Bird Dog. We talked about converters. There's a lot of different people who sell converters, a lot of different people who sell NDI stuff. We're not saying that NewTek is the only company. We're saying they were the first company. They got a little thing called Home Field Advantage there, folks, and Ty's going to go to the runner. It's going to be NDI. Chris, I love what you said about being a betting man. We bet big on NDI years ago. And I just want to say this with you guys that I think is really true, is that we don't get through live streaming in the epidemic without NDI. NDI is the tool that we all relied upon to make things work. You couldn't go into a building and wire stuff. People didn't have SDI and routers to run in their homes or the studio that they made out of a closet. NDI became the solution that really allowed everyone from local schools and local churches to get their sermons out there to big organizations on the networks able to bring in guests on late night TV or on sports shows. NDI made almost everything that you saw during the epidemic work, but it didn't stop you guys from working on NDI and making it that much better. So while adoption of these things may have jumped ahead 5 years, you guys are rapidly catching up on that. I got to thank you guys for being on the show. This was so much fun. We did keep it under 4 hours. So, Jeremy, you lost the over-under. But this was just a fantastic show. I'm so glad we can have both you guys on the show. And just thank you so much. NDI November, how NDI technology can help you. NewTek is, guys, thanks. What can I say? To NewTek, to NDI November, thank you very much. And keep watching all month, guys. Thank you very much. And sign up for the... Wait. I had a question that I missed, so I'm going to go over some questions here. I have one. Do cameras need to be updated to NDI 5 or 5.5? Now, I think they're talking about PTZ cameras in general. In other words, are people going to have to upgrade, or is the NDI backwards compatible? I think is where that question is coming from.
NDI is backwards compatible. You should keep your PTZs on contemporary firmware. But yeah, NDI is backwards compatible. She'll be fine.
Cool. And then another question was, and we didn't even go into it, but there's NDI tools that you can download for free as part of the NDI workflow from NewTek and from others and the SDK and stuff like we talked about with the NDI guy the other day. But some people are still Mac guys. I'm not a Mac guy, nothing against them, but to me, there's computers and there's Macs. I don't want to get into the fight. They're both really computers, but making stuff work on Mac OS isn't always as easy as it is to work on Windows. And one of the things that, the reality is NDI was built with Microsoft in mind from the beginning and where it's going. So there's a little bit of home field advantage with Windows, but are some of those tools that aren't Mac OS yet going to be Mac OS anytime in the near future? That was a question from one of our viewers. Hammerhead Studios.
Yeah, they're constantly under development. Our dev guys work around the clock on all this stuff. They're always looking to push the envelope and see what makes the most sense going forward. And we're all beholden to whatever OS gets put out on the street, both from Microsoft and from Mac. But there's also third-party companies that are also doing their own dev work. We have provided that SDK. And then now that we've changed a little bit with segregating NDI as its own brand, they have their own engineers that are working on some stuff as well, and also kind of pushing that envelope with other manufacturers. So there is that direct relationship now between guys that are developing their own NDI tool set that's separate from what we're doing, under the VizRT Group umbrella. So having that relationship and being open and honest about everything that's going on does allow for more development to be coming in the future from a wide variety of angles.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. Seeing that there's no more questions, we can just give a big thumbs up for NDI November. Woohoo, way to go. Fun show. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it. Got the schedule up here on that. So just want to remind everyone, register at NDINovember.com, and you'll be able to get some cool free prizes if we pick your name out of the hat. So come on board, watch it all month of November, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We're actually producing 5 shows a week out of our studio. My production team's ready to kill me. They did a great job. So kudos to Adam and James. Great job, guys. Thank you very much. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Get those NewTek energy drinks.
Today's Thursday, so we'll see you on Tuesday when we get to another. Once again, guys, thank you so much. NDI November rocks. So does NewTek.
Thanks, Gary.
NDI November is going on all month long for all things NDI. Your one-time registration gains you access to all the informative webinars with great guests and tons of giveaways. Check out the full schedule and register at NDINovember.com. Giveaway prizes include BirdDog P100, JVC PZ200N camera, Telestream Wirecast Pro license, NewTek University class, and more. See all the giveaway prizes and register now at NDINovember.com.